Hi, everyone. My name is Aubrey Langeland. I'm a PhD student here at the University of Michigan in the School of Public Health. And I just wanted to talk to you quickly today about something near and dear to my heart, which is environmental justice, and how we can use this as a framework to look at electronic waste recycling. So in very simple terms, environmental justice deals with the equitable distribution of environmental benefits, such as clean air and water, and environmental burdens, and such as pollution and the health effects that are associated with it. And so we don't have to look very far to find examples of how environmental justice can play an issue in e-waste recycling, especially when you keep in mind that usually people who are performing e-waste recycling are of lower socioeconomic status, and in some cases there's large migrant populations. So first we have a news story that just came out about 2 months ago, and there's a teacher in Ghana who was teaching computer science using a blackboard because his school wasn't able to afford computers. And so the irony never escaped me that in a country where we have one of the largest, most well-documented e-waste sites in the world, we also have classrooms that can't afford the same products that are being recycled in the country. Oops. I'm shaking too much to actually hit the back button, so I'll just talk about first in the upper left corner here. This is a story that just broke in the last couple days where in some countries in Europe, they're taking old cars that are bound for Nigeria, and they're actually shoving electronics in there that are broken down and are nothing but waste anyway. And of course, this is illegal since most of Europe has signed on to the Basel Convention. And then in the bottom left corner here is a slightly older story where the Basel Action Network, which is a NGO that works with electronic waste recycling, attached GPS tracking devices to different electronics and then took them to certified green recyclers within the United States. And what they found was that these products were actually ending up all over the world and being recycled illegally despite the green certification. This one's a little bit less obvious, but it happens every single year around Christmas. We see all these different articles about the coolest tech gadgets that you can buy for your kids, and we never really see stories that talk about responsible consumerism. How long are these products going to last? Is it really something that we need, or is it something that's going to end up in waste? And lastly, this is a story from Ohio about an electronic waste recycler there who works in a formal facility. And he didn't realize it, but every day after work he would come home and his clothes were contaminated with lead, and he would play with his children, and now his children are suffering the health consequences of high lead exposure. So this all is to say that environmental justice is useful when we look at electronic waste recycling, and it's not just useful in looking at it from high-income countries to low- and middle-income countries, but it's useful for looking at it between all sorts of countries and looking at it within countries, even in the United States and Europe, where we think of ourselves as more responsible in terms of recycling electronics. And additionally, it's useful for looking within companies. If you look at the people who are at the top of electronic waste corporations and people who are at the bottom, there's a huge difference not only in the wage gap, but also in the exposures that people come across. So there's many principles to environmental justice, but I just wanted to highlight one that's relevant today, which is the fundamental right to economic and environmental self-determination of all people. The graph in the upper left-hand corner summarizes a very simple concept that as you decrease your socioeconomic status, you increase your likelihood of exposure to environmental contamination. And at the same time, people of lower socioeconomic status are also least likely to benefit from the economic activities that are leading to environmental contamination in the first place. And so I have included a couple pictures here. On the right is just a temporary structure during the day where workers hang out. On the left is actually housing at different electronic waste facilities across the world. And lastly, for those of us in the room who are from Ann Arbor, in the yellow box, if you're wondering what you can do with your e-waste, there's a couple solutions. And if you're from the US, in the gray box, there's a couple solutions. If you're not from the United States, I'm sorry I didn't include any resources for you, but I'd be happy to talk about it afterwards.